We begin today the Gemara towards the bottom of Daf Tzadik Zayin Amud Beis. What's 6 lines up from the bottom of the Amud, where it says Boye Minei Rove. Boye Minei Rove me Rav Chiste. Rove asked from Rav Chiste the following shaila: Hamalves Chavere ala matbeya. A person borrowed from his friend ala matbeya. According to Rashi's pshat, what this means is that a person got merchandise from someone on credit, and he made up that he's going to pay him later on money for this. So in such a case, the Gemara before spoke about this case, and the Gemara there brought a machlokes of Rav and Shmuel. What happens now if the currency changes? You made up you're going to pay him for this merchandise, but you can pay him according to the currency that was in circulation before, or you can pay him according to the currency that's in circulation now. So before the Gemara brought that, Rav says that you have to give him according to the currency that is now. So now based on this, Rav asks Rav Chiste in this case, that what happens now, the currency didn't change, but vahisifu olav. The same coins are still being used, but the way they mint the coins are now different. They added to the amount of silver that's in the coin. It became a thicker coin. So now, what's the halacha now? You have to pay him the original kind of coins that were in circulation, or do you give him this new coin which has a little thicker? Amaloi, so Rav Chiste answered, you give him back the coin that's being used now at this time when he's paying him back, which is a thicker coin. Amalei, so Rav asked him, and that's even if it became thicker and they added so much to it that it's like thick like a nafya, which is like a sieve. Amalei, yes, even if the coin was made that thick. Amalei, even if they made the coin so thick like a tartia, which is like a shear that Rashi says that holds a roiva of a kav, a certain measurement, a certain size where the coin is really much thicker. Amaleyin, so he says yes, you still have to give him this coin that's in circulation now. I guess it's all based on what Rav said before, that when you pay for the merchandise you took in credit, you have to pay according to the kind of currency that's being used now. But now he asked him, but now if so, comes out another issue here. But the fruits that you can buy for the money that's in circulation now, it's much cheaper. What you had to pay before for fruits, you had to pay $1. Now you only have to pay, let's say, 80 cents, just to use a percent, meaning because the coins are now thicker, so therefore the actual coins have more value. If so, this should be a problem of ribbis. You're paying back now with the coins now that are thicker coins, and you're paying back more than what you borrowed. So how could you say that you pay back with these thicker coins? Rav Ashi explained that it depends. You have to look at whether these coins will get you more for your money based on the fact that they're thicker coins or not. So Chazina, we have to analyze this. If it's because of the fact that these coins are thicker coins, that's why things are cheaper. So then you're going to have to, you pay with these thicker coins, but you're going to have to deduct that additional amount because of the difference between the old coins and the new coins. You can't pay with the new coins the same amount, because then it's going to be ribbis. But if you see that the fact that the produce is cheaper is not a result of the quality of the coins, but it's because that's the market value at this time. Rashi says, for example, there was a lot of rain, it was a good season, and there's a lot of fruits available, so if that's the reason why the fruits are cheaper, then you don't have to deduct from that amount from the fact that it got cheaper, because it's not because of the coins, it's because of other reasons. But he still asked him, how could you still say that this person that borrowed this, he has to pay back these thicker coins, and you're telling me that you have to see that maybe the coins have the same value in the market value, but it doesn't matter. If you take these coins themselves and you would melt it and you would want to make silver bars out of it, because it's thicker coins, you're giving him back coins that contain in it physically more silver. So there should still be an issue of ribbis, that you're giving him back coins that have more silver in it. So because of this final question here, the Gemara has charata from the Psaktim before and says, Ella, rather we paskin like this, Ki hoder av papa, barafuna bereder av Yeshua, of the Ovde, so they paskin and they did bepayel regarding this kind of a case, bezuzi the agredimis taya, that when they had to pay back and the coin became thicker, so they went to estimate this by agredimas, which Rashi says was a merchant from Arabs, and he had from the earlier currency and the new currency, and they went to estimate to see the difference between them. Ad yud betamnia, They went to see, is the difference between the old coins and the new coins that what you can get for 10, now you can get just with 8 coins. So if the difference between them is that much, so then you're going to have to deduct the difference between them. You can't pay the same amount. If the difference between them, though, is less than from 8 to 10, so then that small difference doesn't make a difference, and you pay the same coins, and we don't care about the difference between them. It's too small of a difference, and it doesn't really matter in the value. Because anyways, the Rishonim say the way they made those coins, they didn't mamish have the way we have the machines today to make them exactly the thickness and the size the way it is. So therefore, if it's less than this difference between 8 to 10 and what you can get for it, so then that difference you don't have to count. Omar Rabbe said the following halacha. Here, the Gemara is going to bring a few different halachas from Rabbe, which are all based on the same nekuda, which we had already once earlier in the Masechta, and this is the concept of grome benizakim poter. When you damage someone, but the damage that was done is not something that you did a direct damage, but you did something which caused the damage. So for such a kind of damage, you poter medina yadam, but you chayiv medina shemayim. So here's going to bring a few different examples for this halacha. So the first example is hazayrik matbeya shachaveiroi liyama gadol. You throw someone's coin into the water, into the Yama Gadol, into the Mediterranean Sea. Potter, you'll be potter midina yadam for this kind of a damage. Now, what's the reason for this? The Gemara is going to immediately explain that we're not actually talking about a case where you physically took someone's coin and threw it into the Yam. That's a direct damage that you did. The Gemara is going to spell out exactly what case it's talking about. But first the Gemara says one point about this. My timer, what's the reason why you potter? Because Bava Kama, he tells the owner of the coin is there. I just changed this location and I put it in a place where now it's going to be a big tircha for you to get it out from there, but the coin is right there. So the fact that you'll have a tircha to get it, or you may even have to hire someone that's able to dive into the water to get it for you, that's a groma, and therefore you potter. You buy a shakla, you can go ahead and take it. Okay, so now the Gemara explains how and exactly when this concept of groma applies. You actually went and physically threw a person's coin into the water, you're calling that groma? So Gemara says two things. First of all, it says v'hani mili b'tzlulim. First of all, we're only talking about a situation where the water is transparent. The kachazile, you can see the coin right there. You threw it into the water and you can see it, so you know exactly where to go and get it. But if the water is murky, the kachazile, you don't see it, so then obviously this doesn't apply. You threw it into a place where you can't get it anymore. It's not accessible anymore. So you destroyed his coin. You lost it for him. Taisus over here says that when the Gemara says achur and etzlulin, it's just an example. It doesn't mean necessarily whether achur and etzlulin. It means if it's something that it could be something that you see or something that you don't see, something that's accessible or something that's not. Another detail, v'hani mili da adya yaduye. When do you say that this is only called grame? Not if you physically threw it, but you went and you banged the person's hand that was holding the coin. You banged it on the back, and because of that, the coin popped out of his hands and flew into the water. You never picked up the coin itself and threw it into the water. You just banged his hand. You went and took the coin in your very own hands and you threw it into the water. So hashava boy mevet. You yourself took the coin, so by that itself, you're a gazlan. And if you're a gazlan, you have to return the actual coin itself. So again, the point is, the reason why this is called a gram is because the coin is right there available. The only thing is, indirectly, you cause him a damage. Why? Because in order for him to be able to get this coin, you're going to have to be matriach to go and get it. Or if you can't even get it yourself, you may have to hire someone that's a diver that's able to go and get this coin. So the tircha, or the money that he would have to pay someone now to get this coin, that's indirectly the damage that you caused him. But directly, you didn't touch the coin, you didn't do any damage directly, so therefore this is grama. You put him medina yadam. Massive Rav asks on this.
Take away from somebody, yes, give it back. So what?
No, it was, even if it wasn't by mistake, even if it was b'mezid, but if you didn't touch the coin, if you just popped it out of his hands, that's the case over here. You popped it out of his hands, you didn't touch the coin, and the coin's right there, still available to go get. You tell the person, what I did is not nice, I popped it out of your hands, but the coin is there available to take. Now you're going to have to hire someone and pay him to go and get it for you. That's a tircha, or it's a cost of money. That's an indirect damage. Masav Rav asks on this. Negea to being machal ma'aser sheni. We spoke about this yesterday. When you have the produce of ma'aser sheni, and now you have to be machal it on money, and you bring the money to Yerushalayim. So the Braisa says, "Ein mechalin," or it's actually a Mishnah. "Ein mechalin al mois she'enim b'rishusay." You can't be mechalel. You can't say that this produce I have here should be desecrated upon money, but the money is not in your possession now. What does that mean? Kate said, if you own money, but the money you have is far away, it's in a place called Kistra or Har HaMelech, and Rashi says it's a place where not only it's far, but it's actually a danger to travel there. Or you have money in a wallet, but it fell into the Yam HaGadol. You can't desecrate your produce on this money because it's in the Yam HaGadol. So what do you see over here? That because this money is in the Yam HaGadol, it's considered to be something which is lost, not accessible, and you can't be machal. Your money, you're Ma'aser Sheni in this. So if you popped someone's money out and it flew into the Yam HaGadol, so you just took it away from him completely. That itself is considered to be lost. It's not available. So Rabbi says, Shani le'inya Ma'aser Sheni. Ma'aser Sheni is a special Gzeres HaKosov. It's different. Really, the money is still considered to be accessible. You can hire someone to dive and get the money, but Ma'aser Sheni is different. The be'ina matzi biyotcha, because there in the pasuk you see that the money has to be accessible in your hands. The Rachman Amar, the Torah says, "V'tzarta kesev biyotcha v'leke," that you have the money that you're holding in a bundle in your hands, and over here the money is not in your hands; it's in the Yam HaGadol. Another halacha of Amar Rabbe said, "Hashav matbeya shel chaveiroi poter." You have the coins, and the coins have the picture on it, and it's because of this that it has the value of what the coins are used in circulation. You took this person's coins and you erased the picture that's on it. And what I'm soon going to describe exactly when and how this was done. When you say that he's going to be potter here, so potter. This is also another case where really the coin, whatever material of silver the coin has, it still has the same. Here, you can bring a chair over here and sit. Go. It still has the same material of silver on the coin that like it had before. You just ruined the picture of it, that it doesn't have the same picture on it. So you're going to be potter. This is also a case of grama. Taisus over here says, we had before a discussion in the Gemara, a situation where a coin goes out of circulation. And the Gemara before said, according to one opinion, when a coin goes completely out of circulation, it's still considered to be a hazak she'ein niker, and you can give it back as is. That's one of the examples that the Mishnah said. You can return it to the gazlan as is. Right, so according to that opinion, Rabbi is saying now that the coin is considered to be the same coin as it was before. Elamai lost his picture. Now what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to hire someone to bring back the picture of the coin. It's the same coin, it has the same material on it. The fact that now you're going to have a tirche or you're going to have to hire someone to pay him to bring the coin back to its condition the way it was before, that's only a grama. My time at the midi. You didn't do anything. Meaning the coin be'emes is the very same coin as it was before. Now the Gemara explains, it depends how this was done. If you banged it with a hammer and you flattened it out that way, meaning that the coin still contains all the material that it has on it, but you ruined the picture on it. But if you sort of chiseled it and you took off, by the way you flattened it is that you took off some of the material of it. So then you actually took off some of the material of the coins. In such a case, it says, Mamish Mazik, you're going to be chayiv. Rav asks on this the Shaila. It says, we learned this before, it says, Nabraise, Hiko Aleinoi, this is talking about a person that has a slave. And when you knock out a tooth or an eye, or you cause any of his evarim to be destroyed, so he goes out free. So the Braise says, if you hit him directly on his eye, Visama, and you blinded him. Alazna, you hit him directly on the ear, V'chershoy, and you made him deaf. Eved Yeitzebem L'cheres. Because of this, he goes out free. However, it's if you hit him near his eye and because of that he doesn't see, or keneged doesn't, or near his ear and because of this ve'nishmei doesn't hear, ein eved ben yetz ben l'cheres. He didn't touch him, so then he doesn't go out free. What's the Gemara's question though? You see over here that when you bang him directly on his eye, you look at the person's body physically, there's nothing missing in his physical body. But the vision though, the power of vision, you removed from him. And because of that, he goes out free. Even though the Torah says if you knock out an eye, you didn't knock out his eye, but you still took away the power of vision. That's equivalent to knocking out the eye. If so, why don't we say the same thing with the matbeya? Even if the matbeya is 100% intact, but the fact that you took off the picture and therefore now the koyach of what it's used for is in circulation to be able to use it as money. You can't use it anymore. It should also be the same. It should be a real hezek, not just grama. And says the Gemara, Rabbi that said the halacha before follows his reasoning where he said in another place regarding a case where you cause the person to become deaf. It A person that wounds his father, how? That he causes him to become deaf, so then he gets killed, and that's when he banged him directly on the ear. What's the reason for this? Because if a person becomes deaf, there is some wound inside the eardrum, the tipsa, the dama, there is a drop of blood, that spilled was there in the eardrum of the person, and therefore there is a physical wound in the person that's caused by this, and therefore by the eved will also go free. And it's same similar. You have to say also regarding the eye. Mashenki minigeh to the matbeya. The physical matbeya is the same exact matbeya as it was before. The only thing that changed is that now, in order to be able to use it again in circulation, you're going to have to work it out and bring back the picture that was there before, or hire someone to do it. But the etzem the matbeya is the same matbeya, so therefore it's grama ben izaken. A third case, v'omar abat soirim oizim parasa shel chaverei. A person goes and slits, or maybe the other word is nicks, the ear of his friend's cow. So it's the same ear, it just has a little nick in it. Potter. That's also something that you potter for, because the cow is the exact same cow. The only problem now with this cow is the fact that if he decides that he wants to be makdashit as a carbon, he can't be makdashit as a carbon. So you potter. My time, because potter the kaima. The cow is the same cow as it was before. He didn't do anything to it. The kulu shvarim, we're talking here about a private cow that a person knows, and all these oxen, they're not designated to be brought as karbonis. So now, if this owner would decide that he wants to bring a carbon, and he would want to bring this cow specifically as a carbon, he won't be able to. Now he's going to have a tirche, he's going to have to go and buy another cow instead of this one. But the actual cow is in the same condition. The only loss that you caused him is the tirche that he's going to have to go and buy another one instead of this one if he decides to be makdashit as a carbon. That's an indirect damage that you're causing him, but the cow itself is in the same condition. So on this, most of Rabbi asked Rabbi about this, but we learned regarding the paraduma. Now, one of the halachas by paraduma is that if any work is done with the paraduma or with any of the water that's used for the paraduma, it passes it from being used for the paraduma. So, if a person goes and does work with the water of the chatas, the example that Rashi says for this is when a person uses the water on a scale to measure the weight of things, or to see the weight of things with this water, or b'paras chatas with the paraduma itself, you do work with it. So now you just ruined it. It can't be used anymore for the paraduma. So because you didn't do, and there's no physical change over here in the actual water or the cow itself, so you patim medina yadam yechai medina shemayim. Okay, so the Gemara now is medayik from this. This is only if you did work with it. So physically, there's no noticeable damage over here. This is what's called a hezek she'ein nikar. Aval tsoidem. But from this it's mashma. However, if you nick the ear, the minker azeke, there is something physically noticeable. Even though the whole ear is there, it's just nicked a little bit. But there's something physical noticeable. You could be medayik here that you would be chai b'dini adam for this kind of damage. So Amri, they said to answer this question, no, really, who adin da filet tzayrim potter, even if you just nicked it, he would also be potter. Kamash malon, and the chiddush over here of what this Braisa was saying, that filet malacha, even if you just did work with it, and there's no noticeable damage at all, still chai b'din shemayim. That was the main chiddush to say, that you still would be chai b'din shemayim. But the fact that you'd be potter medina yadam, that applies even in a case where Rabbi said where you nicked the ear. Fourth case that is basically saying the same kind of halacha is that there's a chiddush in each one of these cases. This is discussed by Arichas Gedolim and the Rishonim. Each one of these cases is slightly different. Rabbi said, you go ahead and you burn the documents of your friend. So your friend has a document where it says in it a loan that someone owes him $1,000. And now you burnt this document. So potter, you'll be potter for this as well. It's also considered to be a grama. Why? You can tell the person you burnt this document. All I burnt is a piece of paper. The piece of paper had very important information of now the loan. He's gonna have a hard time collecting the loan. But I didn't burn the actual money of the loan itself. Now you're gonna have a harder time proving that this person owes you the money. So because you have a harder time proving it, so indirectly that causes a damage. But I didn't actually burn up the loan. I just burnt a piece of paper. The tircha, the fact that it gives you a harder time to collect the loan, that's indirect. That's called a grama.
But the paper itself?
For the value of the paper itself, he's actually going to have to pay. The Gemara is going to later say, that paper he has to pay for. Maskav la Rami Bachame. Now Rami Bachame asked about this last case over here. Hey Chidami, how does this case play out? How does this case make sense even? If there are Edim here that know exactly the amount of money that was written in the star, so then the fact that he burnt the star, there's no damage here at all. Because these Edim that know exactly what was written in the star, they can go and write a new star. They can say, we saw a star. Every star, Tosfos says, is like a Edim that are nechgrei dusim bebezin dami. It's like you had already the signatures and it was already verified in a bezin. So other Edim that saw this, it's like they saw a psak din of the bezin of what exactly the amount is. So they can write up a star that we saw this psak din over here in this star. So then the burning of the star is you didn't do anything. On the other hand, if there are no Edim that know what the value of the loan that was written in the star is, so anan mina yadinon. How would we know? You're telling me that he's potter? There's no way to prove it anyways. There's no Edim that know what was written in the star. So how could you be mechayev him either way? It's unknown. So Rav explains the case over here that Rabbi was speaking about us to hey, it would be in such a case b'maminoi, where there's a trust between them. One Gersa in Rashi is whether the Baal Ashtar trusts the one that burnt it regarding the amount that there is. The one that burnt it said it was only written $100 in the star, and he trusts him. The case of $100 or the other way around, the one that burnt him says that I trust the Baal Ashtar, it was $1,000 in the star. They trust each other, and still what it's saying is that he doesn't have to pay the value of the loan that was written in the star because he didn't burn the loan itself. This last case over here regarding burning the star, this is depends on the argument between Rab Shimon and Rabbanon regarding the concept of Dava Hagayrim L'Mamen. We had this earlier in the Masechta. The case that we had earlier in the Masechta is when you steal from someone an animal that he doesn't own. He already was makdish at the hektish. But he was makdish at the hektish in such a way that it's his responsibility if it gets lost to replace it. So if you steal such a share from the person, are you stealing something that's his or not his? So Rab Shimon says, because if it gets lost, it's your responsibility to replace it. It's a dava hagayrim l'mamen for you, even though it itself is not yours anymore, but it causes you a loss if he steals it. So therefore, it's considered to be, you're liable for that. So it's considered to be your money. And the Rabbanan say, no, you will makdish it already. It's not considered money anymore. So the Gemara wants to compare it over here to the case of the shtar as well. The Rab Shimon that says if there's anything, that there's a cause, that you become liable if this gets lost, and therefore it has a value of money to you, we consider it to be your ownership of money. So therefore, mechayev. Over here in this case as well, this shtar is not the money of the loan itself, but this shtar is what gets you the collection of the loan. So therefore, if you burn the shtar, you would be chayev for this, because it's through the shtar that you get the money. The Rabbanan, however, the Rabbanan that say that when you will makdish something already in it itself, you don't own it. Elamai, you would be liable if it gets lost. So there's a value of it being in your possession. So, but that's not equivalent to being a real ownership. So over here in this case as well, loy mechayev. If you burn the shtar, since the shtar itself is not the actual loan, it's not the money itself, you won't be chayev for this. So it's connected to that machlekes. That's what Rav Dimi said. So this Gemara says, Maskef lo Rav Huna Berei de Rav Yeshua. Rav Huna Berei de Rav Yeshua says, no, you can't compare our case of burning a shtar to the machlekes regarding a dava garim l'mamen. Why not? When did Rab Shimon say this concept? When you have something with it itself does not have a value of ownership of money. But nevertheless, because of a certain responsibility you have, it is valuable to you. When do you say that? When you're talking about something that it itself actually has a value of money. Elamai, in the level of ownership that you have, you don't have a full ownership over it, but it's something that it itself has a value of money. And the Gemara gives the example, like the case that Rabbi spoke about. Rabbi said, Gozal chometz l'fnei Pesach. You stole someone's chometz before Pesach. And now someone came along, and in the time when from Erev Pesach, 6 hours Erev Pesach, that's the time when you're obligated to burn this chametz. Someone came along and burnt this chametz. B'mayit, it's from that time forward, during the entire Yom Tov, you have a mitzvah, chiv, to burn it. So pater. The fact that this person burnt this chametz that belonged to someone else will be pater for this. Why? Because this is shakar mitzvah malav levarei. Because everybody is obligated and there's a mitzvah to burn it in this time. So if you burn it in this time, you're potter for paying this back. However, Lacha Pesach, if someone else came along and burnt this chametz already after Pesach, what's the halacha of chametz after Pesach? Chametz after Pesach, there's no mitzvah to burn it then. However, on the other hand, it's asa b'hana. Chametz she'ova olav Pesach is asa b'hana. And now someone else took this chametz of this gazlan and burnt it. So what's the halacha here? Machlekes Rab Shimon v'Rabbanan. This is dependent on the machlekes of Rab Shimon and Rabbanan. On one hand, the chametz is asa b'hana. So you don't have any, there's no ownership that there is in anything which is asa b'hana, has no value at all. You can't have any anah from it. On the other hand, though, for the gazlan, there's a value to this. Why? Because as we learned before in the Mishnah, regarding such a case, the gazlan can return this chametz itself to the owner and say, here, take it as is, even though it's asa b'hana. So the loss of it, the fact that someone burnt it, is valuable. You're taking something away from this gazlan that he could have used it to return it to the original owner. So Rab Shimon that says, even though it itself, you have no ownership over it, it's asa b'hana, but nevertheless, the fact that when it gets burnt, it's considered to be a loss for you, because now you can't return it itself to the original owner. So therefore, chayev, the person that burnt it, will be chayev to reimburse the gazlan for this. Now the gazlan is going to have to find other chametz with real value to return it. Rabbanan that say that no, this it itself is asa b'hana, so therefore it's not actual value of money itself, so you're going to be potter. So now the Gemara explains, in this case, what are we talking about? So until here, what's the case we're talking about? The chametz is an example of something where the chametz itself has value to it. Elamai, because of the Isser of Hana, so for you, it doesn't have the real full value. It only has the value of that if it's lost, you can't return it as is. So there's a machlekes. However, when you're talking about something that it itself has no value, it's just a piece of paper. It's a piece of paper that has information on it that you use to collect a loan. But the piece of paper itself does not have the value of that loan at all. Who says that Rab Shimon in our case would say as well that because you collect a loan through this piece of paper, therefore it's considered to be like the value of the loan itself and you have to pay for this. So you can't compare it to the opinion of Rab Shimon over there. Now the Gemara brings about this case over here. Amar Ameimar said, Man de don, dina, de garmi, the opinion that says that the Bezdin will paskin to be mechayiv a person for garmi. A garmi, this is brought over later in the Masechta. We had it before as well. Garmi, this is a big machlekes about garmi actually, what it means. According to Rashi, garmi and grama are the same thing. It's when you cause a damage indirectly. And according to Rashi, the whole entire thing that we just said over here in Amid Aleph, that all these cases where you did a damage indirectly, you're going to be potter, that's only one opinion. There is another opinion, which is Rab Meir, that says that you are chayiv even for grama ben izakin, b'dinei yadam. That's Rashi's pshat. Garmi and grama are the same thing. But most Rishonim learn that garmi and grama is not exactly the same thing. What's the difference between them? There's also a huge machlekes about this, what the difference between them is. But many Rishonim say that the difference between them is a grama is a kind of damage that you cause indirectly, where it's not a direct and immediate damage that you're causing. On the other hand, garmi is a kind of damage that you also are only causing and not doing directly by hand, like for example, the case we had before, that you pushed you popped it out of a person's hand, but it causes an immediate and direct damage. It's more direct. So therefore, the Gemara says, according to that opinion, that does hold that Bezdin will paskin to be mechayiv a person on garmi, magbi bei d'meishtare ma'alya. Over here, regarding this shtar, burning someone's shtar, you went physically with your hands and burned someone's shtar, you're going to have to reimburse him and pay him for all of the value that he lost to collect the money in this shtar. Because it's mamish considered to be a direct damage. As a result of this, there's no way this person now can collect his loan. But the one that says that we don't paskin, Bezdin will not collect with garmi because of garmi. Magmi bei d'mei naira ba'alma. So all you have to pay is just the value of the paper itself. Gemara brings a story that actually happened. Hava Uvda, there was a case, V'kafye, Rafram l'Ravashi, and Rafram forced Ravashi for a damage that he did. And Rashi here says that Ravashi did this when he was a child still. He caused someone an indirect damage by burning someone's document. And Rafram, when he got older, forced Ravashi, V'agbi bei kshura l'tzalma. He forced him to pay very good value A kshura is a beam, letzalma, a beam of wood that's made to use for sculptures. It's a very, very good value of wood. He made him pay this for the damage that he caused when he was a child. So here we see that he paskin like the pain that's done din of the garmi. There's another big discussion over here in Mefarshim based on this Rashi that we see here. Rashi is saying that when a child does damage, and when he's a child, later when he becomes a gadol, you make him pay. Which is not mashma. So earlier in the Masechta here, where it talks about a child, the damages that he does as a child, because they don't have to pay even when they get older. But over here from this Rashi, it's sort of mashma that you would have to pay. There's a big discussion about this. Okay, now going back to what it said in the Mishnah, chametz v'aval Pesach. If you stole chametz, and now Pesach passed, and now this chametz is asaba no, so it really has no value at all. But nevertheless, there's no shinui, there's no physical shinui in it. You return it as is. That was the whole point. The Mishnah says that when there's a physical shinu, you kain it, and then you have to give back the value the way it was b'shasa geneva. But if there's no physical shinu, you give back the item as is. So the Gemara, man tane, who's the tane that holds aimrim b'surei no, that we can say even regarding an item that's now totally aser ba'no. But nevertheless, you can say to the nigzal, the owner, harei shalach lefanecha, here take it as is, even though it's totally aser ba'no. Who holds this? Rav Chisda Rav Yaakov. Says Rav Chisda, this is the opinion only of Rav Yaakov. The Tanya, because we learned in the Braisa regarding the following case, a shoyer that killed somebody. And when it kills someone, it's chayiv skila. But it only becomes chayiv skila, and as a result, it only becomes aseh b'hana after there's a gemar din, a psak din of the bezdin. So therefore, before there was a psak din of the bezdin, machroi, he went and sold this ox. Machar, it's sold. Not only the sale takes effect because there's no psak of bezdin yet that it's aseh b'hana, but even after this, you can't anymore paskin that it should be stoned to death. Rashi over here brings when you paskin regarding a shoyer that killed someone, it has to be the time when it killed and the time when bezdin is paskening the same owner. So once you sold it, it's sold. Hekdeshay, if you gave it over to Hekdesh, you dedicate it to Hekdesh, Mukdesh, the Hekdesh takes effect. Shachta, you slaughtered it, you shechted it, Psari Mutter, you can eat the meat. And also, Echzire Shomer Lebailov, a Shomer that had this in his possession that he was guarding for someone, and then it went and gored and killed someone, he can give it back to the owner before there's any psak din of bezdin, and it's still not asaba no muchzer, it's returned. However, the Tanna Kama says mishanig madinoi, once bezdin already paskin, and now it's asaba hana machre and a macher. If you sell it, the sale doesn't take effect. The Tishain and Mukdish, the Hektish doesn't take effect. Shachtei b'sari aser, you shecht it, the meat is forbidden to eat. And also, Chziroi shomer lebailov, the shomer returns this ox to its owner. Ein a muchsa, you have returned nothing. What are you returning him? He gave you an ox that's usable, and you're giving him back an ox that's totally asabana, so you can't return it. And this last case regarding returning it to its owner, Rabbi Yaakov says, no, af nigma dinai, even after it was already paskin and it's also bahana, hechzir shayim lebailov, the shayim returns this ox to its owner, muchser. It is returned. So what do we see over here? What are they arguing about? So my love. So Rav Chisda says, don't you think Bava Kama miflagi? That here we see this argument between the Tanna Kama and Rav Yaakov. The Rav Yaakov says, even regarding something which is totally asabah, but nevertheless the shayim can give it back to its owner as is. But Rabbanan disagree, and they say, something that's asabah, you can't say, here, take it back as is. It's not the same item. It's totally asabah, you can't say, here, take it back as is. So therefore our Mishnah is following Rav Yaakov's opinion. So Rabbi answered Rav Chisda and said, no, it's not dependent on this machlokes of Rav Yaakov and the Tanna Kama. Their machlokes is based on something else. Really, everybody agrees regarding a usual case of Isurei Hana. Let's say the example that the Mishnah talks about, Chametz, where it's just a matter of time. If it goes over the time of Pesach, and then automatically it becomes asaba hana, you didn't touch it, you didn't do anything to it, and there's no physical noticeable change in it, over there you can give it back as is. But rather over here, and he proves his point, the imkain, because if they would be arguing even in such a case like chametz, where it just automatically becomes asaba hana, so then niflagu b'chametz with Pesach. Why would they be arguing only about this case of the shoyer haniskal? They could be arguing also about chametz with Pesach. So why are they arguing dafka about this case of the shoyer haniskal? Hello, Rabbe. So Rabbe explains, over here there's a different argument. And the point that the Gemara is going to explain over here now is, by this shayr on niskal, it doesn't become asa b'hana automatically. How does it become asa b'hana? Through a psak of Bezdin. Now the question over here is going to be, this psak of Bezdin, does this shomer have to bring the oxen to Bezdin for Bezdin to be able to paskin that or not? If the shomer himself has to bring the oxen to Bezdin for Bezdin to paskin that, so then it didn't become asa b'hana automatically. You did an action by bringing the oxen to the Bezdin that caused it to become asa b'hana. So you can't say, you brought this oxen to Bezdin. Why did you do so? So it's not an automatic issa hana. That's what they're arguing about. Do you have to bring the oxen to Bezdin? So the Gemara, they're arguing whether Bezdin would paskin that this shayr niskal has to be stoned to death and therefore becomes asa b'hana. Could Bezdin paskin this even if the ox is not inside the Bezdin? Rabbanan's opinion is the Bezdin will never paskin that the shayr has to be stoned to death if the shayr is not here in the Bezdin. So therefore now the owner of this shayr says to the shaymer, why did you bring it into the Bezdin? If you would have brought it to me, I would have ran away with it into a swamp somewhere, and Bezdin would never paskin that it's also ba'ana. Hashtem esarte. Now you came and gave this shayr over biyad mandalim metzina. In the hands of someone that I can't have any discussions with and I can't anyway take it away from them. You brought it to the Bezdin. So you physically brought it to the Bezdin. It didn't become asabana automatically. You brought it to the Bezdin physically. So therefore, that's what caused it to become asabana. So you can't just now return it to me as is. That's why over here, Rabbanan hold that if it's asabana, you can't return. But by chametz with Pesach, it becomes asabana automatically. He didn't do anything physically. You can return it. Rav Yaakov holds that Bezdin will paskin that this shayr is asr even if it's not brought into the Bezdin. So therefore, the Amalei, the shomer tells the owner, "My avdile, what did I do wrong? The fact that I brought it into Bezdin, my action didn't change anything because Bezdin would have paskin that has to be stoned to death, whether it was in the Bezdin, whether it's not. It's like it's similar to chametz. It's an automatic thing that once it kills someone, Bezdin will paskin, then it becomes asr ba'ana." So the Gemara now, so therefore, Rabbe refuted Rav Chisda's pshat, the case of chametz, and the argument that there was between Rabbanan and Rav Yaakov regarding the shayr niskal is not the same thing. Ashkech Rav Chisda Rabbe Bashmul. Rav Chisda encountered Rabbe Bashmul, and Amalei he asked him, "Tonis midi basuri no? Did you learn any braise that may shed light on this discussion here that we're having regarding something which is asaba no, whether you could return it to its owner or not?" Amalei, so he answered him, yes, Tanina, I learned the following braise. Braisa says, the pasuk says, you have to return what you stole. Why does the pasuk then have to add asher gozal? Extra words of asher gozal. What this means is yachser ke'en shegozal. You can give it back as long as it's in the same condition as it was when you stole it. Physically, if it's in the same condition, you give it back as is. From here they learned out. Gozal matbeya v'nifsal. You stole a matbeya, and it's the same matbeya. It's just you can't use it anymore. The government took it out of circulation. Or peiris v'rekivo, fruits that rotted. Or yayin v'hichmitz, wine that became vinegar. Truma v'nitmis, or truma that became tomei. Chametz v'aval of Pesach, or chametz that now Pesach passed over it. So now it's asaba no. Or beheme v'nevda ba'aveda, and beheme that an aveda was done with it, and therefore it's asaba no. Or, and here, this is the case that's relevant for us, v'shayr, and also a shayr that killed someone, ad shaloi nigmar dinoi, and here it specifically spells out that this is only before there was a Gemara din from Bezdin, oimer loi harei shalach lefanecha. He can tell him, here, take it back as is. So the Gemara says, man, shamet le da'ama ad shaloi nigmar dinoi in, misha nigmar dinoi loi. This Brisa specifically says that regarding this shayr, you could only say harei shalach lefanecha before the Bezdin paskins it's asaba no. But not after. Who is the one that holds this? Rabbanan. It's the Rabbanan that say this. And Vikatani, together with the Rabbanan's opinion, it says here in this Braise, Chametz v'avar alav Pesach. The case of Chametz after Pesach, it's asaba no. You can return it to him. So you see over here clearly that Rav Chisda's pshat is wrong. Rav Chisda said that the Chametz v'avar alav Pesach would not fit with the opinion of the Rabbanan that say that after Gemar Din of the Shayr, it's asaba no, you can't return it. Over here it says no, it goes together with the opinion of the Rabbanan. Amalei, Rav Chisda says to Rabbi Bashmul, if you'll find the yeshiva students, don't tell them about this braise that you found that this proves my opinion. Okay, the Gemara now asks, one we learned here till the Mishnah, the Gemara brings it, the Brisa before it said, Peres v'irkivu, oimaloy arei shalach lefanecha, that when you have fruits and they got rotten, so you can still return them to the owner the way it is. But the Gemara asks, how could the Brisa say that? Didn't we learn the Mishnah, Peres v'irkivu, that when you have Peres and they got rotten, then mishalim kishas exela. This is a noticeable change, and therefore you kain it, and you have to give it back. You have to give back the original value that it was at the time of the Gzela. Rav Papa answers, Kan Shekivu Kulon, that in a case where all of the Pedas got rotten, or the Mefarshim say not necessarily all of them, but most of them got rotten, so that's a noticeable change. You can't give it back as is. And Kan Shekivu Miktsosan. If there's a few Pedas that got rotten, that's normal. When you have a basket of apples, there's always going to be one of them that's rotten, so there's no noticeable change over here. So then you give it back as it is now. There's another thing that the Brisa also mentioned, Yayin vehechmitz. That's also hard to understand why the Brisa says Yayin vehechmitz, because the Mishnah also said regarding wine that turns into vinegar that you can't give it back as is. The Nagos Hagro over here it says you can't be good as hechmitz, you have to be good as hikrim, which is not mamish vinegar.